Alright guys, so in this video I want to talk about Mirage. So when you reached Grand Ascension, you are able to unlock Mirage, so Mirror Mirage down in the challenge. And so I want to talk about three monsters in general that people stuck on. And the first one would be the stage 3, the bird. So the bird, basically you just have to understand that you can move the position of your teammates. And so once you understand that, you will just put someone in the front and the damage dealer in the back. So in general, we would want to have, so there's 3 people, maximum per team for Mirage. And basically, the most ideal situation is to have 1 tank, 1 and 2 DPS. But then the damage dealer, usually within the same CP or spanning range, you would only find probably 1 person that can do a lot of damage and the other person who are tanky enough to go through all the stages with you. So let's just talk about 2 person and how their setup would be ideally. And so in this video, we're trying to talk about how to beat your own level of Mirage. So I know that Mirage is generally a system where you just ask the bigger whales to fight for you, and that works out pretty good. But let's just say you are the whale yourself, or that your whales get out of the assistance, or you just want to beat it yourself. So that's how we're gonna do this video. We're trying to do Mirage on our own, and together with a teammate that is in the same CP or spanning range with us. So basically, for the tank, so let's start with the beast first, okay? So both the damage dealer and the tank needs to have a healing beast. So ideally, both Luan or Tortoise will work, but you need to have a healing beast because you need sustain in Mirage, and sustain will be very important later on. And so now let's talk about the ability setup for the tank first. So for tank, you would want to have Golden Aura, Soul Drain, and I'll explain that later. So Golden Aura, Soul Drain, Reanimation, and generally you would want to carry Iron Body. So that's basically the setup for the tank. And so for the main damage dealer, we would want Transform, Demon Seed. If you are very confident with your level of sustain and your final damage down, then you don't have to carry reanimation for the damage dealer. Potentially we want to have Wolf Hall, but if not, you could also carry reanimation. And the last one we would want for body would be Energize. So this is the setup for the damage dealer. And so for the genies, let's see. So for the genies, for a tank, we would want to have Dragon Princess. And then we're gonna build some sustain. So usually we would do Longevity Sage. And the last one depends, but we could usually do Whisker if the damage dealer, if the tank is going full tank. But if the tank itself can also do some damage, then instead of the Longevity Sage, we would also want to have potentially Oscar, because Oscar can give a buff for the damage dealer to do more damage. So that's usually the setup for the tank. And so for the damage dealer, we would want to go literally full damage. So what we want to do is Ghost General and Treasury Keeper. So here. And then the last genie is very, very tricky, and this is where I'm going to talk about how to actually beat level 6, because level 6 and 5, obviously. Level 5 and 6 is usually the ones that people get stuck on the most. So the damage dealer is going to carry Ox Head, and I'm going to explain that later. And so, just one thing, back to the ability section. If you're using Ox Head, we are going to carry Morning Crow too. And so Morning Crow is to reduce your crit resistance and lifesteal resistance, and this is going to be super important later on. But now let's go back to Bloodline. So Bloodline is the most important thing here, and it's nothing fancy, just the Dragon Bloodline. And the reason why Dragon Bloodline is going to carry us through all the Mirage stages is because of its unique attribute of increasing crit damage infinitely, basically. We need this infinite stack of crit damage for us to beat them. And so usually the only build that the damage dealer is going to take, because the build for the tank doesn't really matter, as long as you live, it's going to be fine. But ideally, everyone would carry crit combo and dodge res, and this is going to be the most important build for Mirage, and that's why I would advocate for always keeping a crit damage build, because it's going to be useful for both a crit damage and combo build, because it's going to be super useful for both Invasion, Guild Boss, and the Myriad Mirage. So right now let's talk about how to allocate the attributes, because you just want to check your monster's attribute. So let's look at BC here, so level 6. You would want to see that, so it has a 618 dodge for CI level 6, so it's going to be lower or higher depending on your own level. But so first you check the dodge attribute, okay, so you know it's 616, 618, and then you check that it has the healing touch here. So you have to remember that the dodge is further increased by 36% when the health is dropped. So you gotta keep that in mind, and you add them together, so that it's gonna be 654 dodge in total. And then you're gonna look at the combat resistance. So you see it has a 467 for crit res and a 402 for combo. And the other thing important is the lifesteal res, so it's 361. And I'm gonna explain why lifesteal is actually pretty useful in this particular situation. But keep in mind that because we would want to have at least over 80% of the dodge res compared to its res, so 654 plus 80 would be 734. So that's ideally how high our dodge res should be. But usually, if you can't do that, remember that you can always change around your disciples here. So if you go to a point, you could also appoint, your disciples that have a very high dodge res, for example. So just put your dodge res as high as possible, and then you're gonna go back to check again your stats, your attribute compared to its resistance. So it says here that the crit resistance is gonna be 647. So if the monster's crit resistance is 647, it means that we want to have 567 crit in order to 100% crit. And because combo only has 80% chance of proccing each time, so we want to have 480 combo as well. So now you go back to your stat board and then you check it out. Say, okay, I have right now 512 combo, for example. Then I could lower it by like 2 items perhaps, so it goes to around 480 would be enough, and I'm gonna make my crit higher. And remember that you could also manipulate your stats with the disciples I just talked about. So changing around the appointed disciples would be very important. And so you could also adjust your stats further by just manipulating the genies. For example, if you're really short on crit, then you don't have to really carry Treasure Keeper. You can also carry Peacocking for the additional crit attribute it brings, and that's really important for us. So once you matched all the resistance, including lifesteal. So lifesteal is a little bit more interesting because you don't have to get 100% or even 80% over. Understanding this as for every 1% of lifesteal you have more than the rest, then you would have 1% of lifesteal. So basically, if you have, let's say, 30% of the lifesteal over its resistance, then it's going to be quite enough. And we generally don't have any disciples or items dedicated to lifesteal, and that's the reason why I'm using Oxhead here, because it's going to increase your lifesteal by a lot. And together with the Oh, and by the way, when you're calculating the attribute, don't forget to calculate the combat resistance sigils and everything, because the monster itself does not have any combat resistance sigils in general. So ignoring the combat stats, this one matters too. So remember to keep that into the formula when you're doing the calculations. And so the reason why I'm bringing Morning Crow here is basically so that I don't have to have that much crit and lifesteal, and it's going to be perfect for us in the situation. So if you can pass with Wolf Hall or Reanimation, I would also try to use Morning Crow because it's going to be super useful for us. Okay, now let's talk about the monsters. So we've just talked about how for level 3 you just gotta remember to put the tank in the front and the damage dealer in the back, so that the bird will only stun the tank and not the damage dealer, and it's gonna be pretty easy. And then for level 5 Dijiang, remember that we need to kill him as soon as possible, and that's why we're gonna use Ghost General and Treasure Keeper, because we want to one-shot them with our Tau. Because if you check the attribute, you could see that this Fian Dread reduces the damage taken by 50%, but increases Tau damage taken by 30% additionally. And this attribute itself means that we are supposed to one-shot Dijiang, and we're going to use Tau crit, and that's why we're going to bring Transform, because Transform is the highest damage Tau we have in this game. And so I'm going to show the video later, but now let's talk about level stage 6 again, because this is the reason why we're using Lifesteal. So when you see this, you see that BC has this damage of it's gonna basically attack random enemies 5 times, and each attack will deal 10% of the total health. So this damage is neglecting the final damage up or down, which means that no matter what you do, it's gonna take away your percentile of your health. And that's why healing is very important in this situation, because he's gonna keep attacking you, and you don't really, if you don't have a reliable way of heal, you will definitely die. And that's why we're going to bring Healing Beast, Blood Ward Tortoise, as our main beast. And the other thing is that you see how in this situation, he also has a skill that basically means that when you are permafrost by his Tau, you are not going to receive any heal, and this is going to be super dangerous for us, because once you get permafrost, your Loan or Tortoise is not going to heal, and together with the percentile health damage it's going to deal, it's going to basically kill you if you do not have extra lifesteal on it. And because we do a lot of damage as the Dragon Bloodline builds up, as long as we have like 20 to 30% lifesteal, we are going to heal full with our Tau crit, and that is why we are going to bring lifesteal. And lastly, the reason why we're bringing Soul Drain for our tank is because we are trying to slow down the release of the permafrost for that anti-heals us. Okay, so now I've explained everything, every setup. Let's just talk about the recordings. So if you have enough damage, I would say you don't really need to bring the heal as the main skill. But generally, if you need more sustain, then you could also bring the heal as the team skill. But I generally do just final damage up, because it's going to be more useful. And so here, let's focus on level 5 and 6, because that's more important here. So as you see here, when we have enough crit and combo stats, we will keep critting, and we will have sustain from our Luan or Tortoise. And because we have more lifesteal right now, it means that we can keep healing with each of our auto, and it's going to be very reliable. And you see that I just Tau crit one-shot at Dijiang, and that's what you should expect too. You need to one-shot Dijiang with your Tau, because if you don't one-shot this monster, it's going to keep stealing your attack, and after about round 8 or 10, you don't have enough damage to one-shot them, so that's what you should aim for. And finally, let's look at this. So as you can see, I don't have I think 100% more dodge than the monster, and that's why sometimes I will be dodged, but you get the idea. And this is the part I want to talk about. When I'm permafrost, you see I don't heal anything, and my Luan heals 0. And in this situation, if I don't have lifesteal, I will be dead. But look at this. 1 tile crit, I'm full health. And this is all because of lifesteal. If I don't have enough lifesteal, I will die. But now we get it, and because of the infinite stack of Dragon Bloodline, we one-shot them with our tile, and that's our victory. Okay, so thank you so much for watching this video.